Good morning, friends. Today I have brought a brand new video on the enterprise structure in the SAP and SAP FICO in particular. Though it is a common question, but I have my experience as a panel member in the interview that there are many candidates who do not have understanding about what is an enterprise structure, what is the usefulness of this, and why do we create an enterprise structure. So when I have seen that there are many people who are not aware of this concept in the SAP system, why it is needed, what is the use of it, what all it does in the system. So this is the reason why I have created a specific video on this particular topic called as enterprise structure in the SAP system. Before I move further on this video, it is my humble request to all my viewers of this video, please like this video, share this video in your circle. If you have any questions, you can put up in your comment section. It will be definitely answered to you, or at the end of this particular video I will share an email ID. You can drop your queries there as well, and it will be definitely responded back to you if at all you have a specific query on this given topic. So let's proceed further. So what is an enterprise structure and how it is connected to SAP FICO? Please remember one thing, that enterprise structure is available in more or less all modules from the functional side in SAP domain. Almost all modules, leaving one or two modules which does not have that kind of specific setup, but most of the modules in SAP system has it. And in each module this setup is different, it is not exactly one and same. So please don't have misunderstanding that this I will tell the same thing I will explain to the SAP MM also, SAP SD also, SAP PP also, SAP QM also, and other modules also. It is not like that. Each module will have a different kind of org structure setup, the relationship between various components and other related items. So basically in this video we will talk about how this enterprise structure creates the relationship between two different org units or org elements. Then what is the usefulness of the enterprise structure? What is the benefit, what is the advantage people get by way of creating this enterprise structure in the SAP system? And what is the impact of the enterprise structure? That means how far it will be effective and useful, and what kind of role this enterprise structure plays in the SAP system. So these things we will see in very detail as a part of this particular video. Let's move further. So what all things we are going to cover up in this video is what is written by way of context. What is an enterprise structure? Various names, organizational units and elements, importance of org structure, components of org structure in FI and CO. I have kept it separate and due to the purpose as well. The relationship between FI and CO components, what all mandatory settings and what all optional settings. Then org structure, a critical decision, why it is a critical decision. Changes in the org structure which is used in the SAP implementation and SAP support projects. Interview questions on enterprise structure. enterprise structure in few other modules like SDMM. Then my personal view on org structure, and finally we will conclude this video with my conclusion and with my understanding. Here one thing I will definitely say, based on my almost 12 years of experience, I am sharing my thoughts, viewpoints, my knowledge, experiences and understanding about these things on this org structure part. There are people who have understanding, but then there are people who do not have clear cut understanding, particularly the freshers and people who do not have more than 4-5 years of experience. Sometimes people with even 8-9 years of experience also do not have proper understanding of this concept called as enterprise structure or org structure, or maybe the reporting structure of the SAP system. Let's proceed further. So what is the org structure or the enterprise structure? So enterprise structure is a hierarchical model. Hierarchical means it has different you can say the levels, or the relationship also 1:1, 1:n kind of thing, and obviously it has different levels as well, and it represents the company's organizational units that are relevant for the business processes supported by the SAP system. Remember, this org structure is not created outside the SAP system, rather it is being created within the SAP system. People sometimes get confused by the generic terms which is being mentioned over here. Org structure does not mean that it is created outside the system. It is created well within the SAP system. Now, what are the different name it has? It can be called as enterprise structure. Some people call it as org structure. Some people also call it as reporting structure of the SAP system. How the reporting happens. And then you also have something called as org elements, org units, org components. You will ask, what is the difference between org structure and org elements, org units, org components? What is the difference? The difference is org element will always indicate to a particular component only a single component, but your org structure is not related to just one component. It is related to many components altogether, and that is how org structure is a bigger picture when compared to the org elements. Org element will be one. There are many elements, but it will always denote to single component only. For example, company code, controlling area. These are all nothing but your org elements. But when I talk in terms of enterprise structure, then I will talk between the relationship of all these different components. We have more slides going forward. There we will explain these things, and we will try to understand these things in a better way. Let's move further. Before we go further, first let us understand, in the previous slide I was talking about org elements, org units, org components. Let us understand some of them. It is not the entire list, but some of the important ones I have just noted it down for your general understanding. So client, as you know, client is 3-digit number given to any SAP system, and it comes before your user ID and password, which you just put in and then you log in the system. It can be ECC system, S4 HANA system, does not matter. The rules and regulations are one and same, no difference as such. So client is the highest level unit of all organizational elements, and it represents the enterprise or the headquarters group. That is how the client is. Now controlling area. Again, this is an organizational unit that is used to manage your management accounting or cost or profits of the organization or the business or the company, whatever you call it as. Then comes your company code. Company code is a org unit created specifically for creation of the various reporting requirements meant for a particular entity. And remember, this is a legal requirement. This is not something an optional in nature. So that is why company code is a mandatory requirement. You have to set it up. You don't have a choice for it. If you want to have profit and loss account, balance sheet, cash flow statement, fund flow statement, you will prepare always at the company code level as per the rules and regulations applicable for the given country. Remember, reporting happens at the country level and international level as well. But then in that case also company code is a must. So company code is the central organization element for the financial accounting. Now sales organization. Again, this is a organizational element created for the sales and distribution process. Your SD module I am talking about. Then you have a division also and distribution channel also. Then again we have very important org unit called as plant. Plant is used for the main purpose is the production planning. It can produce, it can distribute the products, and the same plant can even provide us services as well. For example, maintenance. So any kind of product or service when you start dealing with from the SAP system, you will definitely have to set up a plant as well. Then purchasing org. This comes in your side. Remember, this plant is applicable into SD and both sides it goes. That means plant will be used in the SD side also and in the though it is actually related to the but is being used in the SD side as well, because when you sell some goods, so you will have to create a material master, and when you create a material master without plant, your material master will not work. So that is why this plant is used by SD and module both. Purchasing org is responsible for your entire P2P setup process, all kind of day-to-day purchasing activities. It helps you in procuring materials and services, negotiating conditions of purchase, vendors, and managing the various kind of transactions with the vendor as well. So purchasing organization also is one of the important org unit from the perspective, module perspective. Hope all above points are clear to you all. Let's move further. Importance of org structure. As you can see even in the picture, this is just for the representation part I have given, but then let us understand the importance of org structure in the SAP system, why it is needed, what is the use of it. First thing is, without org structure set up in the system, SAP system basically cannot work. So this is the backbone of the system functionality offered by SAP. Usually this is a one-time activity. Every now and then people do not go and change the org structure of a company. And many a times it is a very costly affair, and sometimes it is like next to impossible as well, depending on situation and circumstances. The rule applies into both kind of systems, whether in ECC or S4HANA system, does not matter. The rules and regulations attached to this component is exactly one and same. So usually it is a one-time activity and it happens when you start implementing the SAP system for the company. Later on you can make changes, but then changes must be justified by the business, and everything you will not be able to modify also as well. Certain things it will be difficult, you might even need to take help from the SAP. And this org structure also helps in meeting all kind of business reporting requirements. Any kind of report you have to create, it will come via org structure, org elements only. It helps you to generate various kind of things. You need cost center level report, you need profit center level report, you need company code level report, and then there are so many various kind of reports. So this org structure also helps you into reporting requirement as well. For example, profit and loss account, balance sheet, cash flow statement, fund flow statement, and then there are so many, your financial statements and so on. Now we will talk about how the org structure in SAP FI module looks like. If you talk only from the FI perspective, the most important and critical component is called as company code. Though company is one level above than the company code, and under a single company you can assign multiple company codes. So the relationship between company code to the company is 1:1, but from company to company code is 1:n. Kindly keep this point in mind. Then you have also something called as business area. Business area can be used by single company code, it can be used by multiple company codes as well. And then your company code is again assigned to your general ledger, nothing but your chart of account, and then obviously you have all other related areas like AR, AP, asset accounting, and so on, banking. But in the overall org structure part of it, company code is the one which you will have to create. You do not have a choice for it. If you don't have a company code, you cannot have all of other things. All other things are optional. For example, company and business area are optional. If you need it, you can create it. If you don't need it, you can just leave it. But company code, if you don't create it, nothing is going to work for you in the SAP system from the financial point of view. So company code is one of the mandatory requirement. It is not an optional requirement, but your company and business area, these two particularly are part of the org structure and optional by nature. If you need it, suppose you want to do the consolidation at the trading partner level or the company level. So in that case, and even for your intercompany transactions, then you set up your company and business area. Depending on, again, as I said, it comes purely from the reporting requirement perspective of a company. And your GL, AR, AP assets all comes under your company code. Let's move next. Now let us understand how many different kind of relationship company code shares with all other organizational components or organizational elements. Look at the picture and you will understand how many relationships a single company code can have in the SAP system. It will connect with the company, it will connect with the business area, it will connect with the financial management area, it can have connection with the controlling area, plant, sales org, then credit control area also it can have directly, and then so on. And every component in the SAP system or the org unit in the SAP system is connected with another org unit in the system. Without connection, most of the things do not work. Here only one thing is very important is, though business area you do not assign directly to the company code, but when you post the transaction, any kind of business transaction, when you post it in the SAP system, that time you create basically the link between your company code and the business area, and that is how the linkage is being created between these two. But there is no direct assignment between these two, but rest all things are usually get assigned in one way or the other, direct or indirect assignments. Indirect means it is routing through some other org elements. That's what I mean by. For example, if you see in the picture how the warehouse is connected to the company code, it is not a direct assignment. Warehouse is connected to the plant and plant is connected to the company, and that is why I said it has an indirect assignment rather than a direct assignment. But in case of business area, also the relationship is created only at the time of posting. It does not have any direct assignment as such, but indirectly at the time of posting we create it. I hope all the company code connections in the SAP system you have understood it clearly. Please keep this image in your mind all the time, because when you go for the interview, they can trick you and ask you many questions from this particular picture itself, that how the relationship works. Then you should know how the relationship is over here. It can be 1:1, it can be 1:n, it can be direct relationship, and it can also have indirect relationship. So you have to understand all these terms and the relationship between these components in a better way. And this image must not get erased from your mind. You have to keep it in mind all the time. Let's move further. Now in this slide we will understand the org structure. So far we have talked about FI. Now we will talk about org structure in controlling module. So in controlling module or the CO module, the highest org element is called as operating concern. This is the highest, and controlling module I am talking about. In SAP system, highest is always the client. Under the client only your operating concern will come. Operating concern does not go outside the client. It is also within the client. But in CO module, operating concern is the highest one. And it is an optional one. It is not a mandatory one. You will ask why it is not a mandatory one? Because if you are going to use the functionality of COPA, controlling and profitability analysis, that is why it is clearly written profitability segment. If you are going to use that functionality, then you will have to create this operating concern. Otherwise it is not needed, and that is why operating concern is an optional component or org element or org unit or whatever you call it as. Under that comes your controlling area. Controlling area is the most important org element as a part of controlling org structure. Without controlling area, literally nothing will work. You will have to create it. This is one of the mandatory requirement from the CO perspective. And then this controlling area is then further assigned to the company codes. The relationship can be 1:1 and 1:n, both, depending on how many company codes you have. If you have single company code, and single controlling area, the relationship is 1:1. And if you have multiple company codes with single controlling area, the relationship is called as cross company code relationship, 1:n. Then your company code can be assigned to the plant, company code can be assigned to the sales org, then that will further go to the distribution channel, customer division, and so on. But if you talk purely from the CO perspective only, then you have only two important components as a part of the org structure. First is operating concern and second one is the controlling area. And together these two covers up all modules in your CO. It can be your COPA, it can be your product costing, it can be your internal order, it can be your profit center accounting, it can be your cost center accounting, and so on. Any kind of reporting, any kind of manufacturing process or something like that, all these will be covered by these two org elements, operating concern and your controlling area. And out of these two, controlling area is a must. Operating concern is an optional facility available by the SAP system. If you are using COPA, then you need it. If you are not using COPA, you don't need it. Let's move further. Now, very interesting slide. Other topics on the order structure. How the order structure in the SAP implementation and support project works. Please remember one thing. In case of a support project, the org structure is already defined and implemented and being put up in the SAP production system as well. So in general, leaving only few exception things, you do not need to make any changes in the org structure of the SAP system. It will remain as it is. You will be just utilizing the facility given by the org structure in the SAP system. Okay, but in case of SAP implementation project, in this particular project, you will have to create the new org structure, and this new org structure will be created by taking inputs from the business, taking the requirements from the business. You will ask, sir, what all things you need, what all things you are going to do, what will be your reporting requirements, what all different kind of transactions are going to take place in your SAP system. So they will collect entire business blueprint, all the relevant information, and after all the informations are collected, then that will be analyzed in a better way, and then they will arrive that what will be an ideal org structure which will fulfill all these requirements of the business which they have requested from the SAP system. So this is a very important activity from the SAP implementation project perspective. Now, interview questions on the org structure. What I have usually seen is many a times at least one or two questions they are people usually always ask from this topic. Recently I have come across a person. I have asked what is an enterprise structure. Person said I don't know, and I was actually surprised because the person has more than 6 years of SAP experience. I was really taken aback by the kind of response I got. Sometimes they will give you a business scenario and then they will ask you, please tell me what will be the order structure of this particular scenario. So questions can be direct, questions can be indirect as well. So in that case, and FI and CO usually go together in terms of order structure part. So they will ask you, okay, these things I want to meet by way of SAP system. Tell me what would be an ideal order structure for me. These are actually little bit sometimes tricky questions, but as long as you understand the concept correctly, you will be able to answer these questions very well, and you can even clear those rounds by way of answering such kind of questions in a better manner. Remember, one more point is changes in the org structure. Changes in the org structure which is already being used are very difficult. If you change the relationship between two items in a production system, it can create lot of issues, it can create lot of problems, it can virtually shut down your system also sometimes. So it is not advisable to make big changes in terms of org structure in the running SAP system. And if you do also, you have to do a thorough analysis. Sometimes you also might need to take help from the SAP directly as well. So this is one of the case where people need to understand what to reply, how to reply, what is the question, and always first listen the question, take 2-3 seconds of time for yourself, prepare a right answer in your mind, and then respond. Many people are always hurry in answering the questions. Don't be in a hurry. Take little bit of pause, create an answer in your mind, and then reply. That will create a good impression of yours in the eyes of the interviewer. So changes in the org structure can be sometimes really very difficult, and it is usually not advisable. You can add few things here and there, that can be there. You can set up a new company code, do all other things, that is possible. Additions are possible, but modifications into already running things can create lot of issues, and even it can spoil the entire system as well. It has the potential to do that. So that is why never ever play with the org structure, and that is why this is also one of the most critical decision business takes at the time of SAP implementation work. Let's move further. Now we are talking about org structure in the SAP SD module. SD means sales and distribution module. That is a separate module. So what all things it has? You have company code, then other side you will have plant and shipping point, and then in the sales org side you will have sales org, you have distribution channel, you have division, which combinedly becomes your sales area, which you see in the customer master, extension of customer master to a particular sales area. Then you also have sales office and sales group. All these things and relationship between all these components along with the company code and other things is what is called as your SD org structure, or you can say sales and distribution org structure. Moving to the next. Now let us look at the org structure in the SAP side, materials management. So you have company code, you have company, you have purchasing org, you have plant, you have storage location, and you also have purchasing group. So this is how the relationship will look like. Client is, anyway I have said that it is always at the highest level, that is why client is at the highest. Then you have company code, then you have purchasing org. Purchasing org can be central one also, and it can be for different locations, decentralized and centralized, both kind of purchasing org you can have. So this can go into different way. Then you have plant, again very important, and then storage location, purchasing group, and other activities. So this is what your SAP org structure will look like. Let's move further. Now if I say please combine all the previously what we have seen from the org structure, all important component perspective, then this is how it will look like. Topmost will be your client. Again, mandatory one, anyway without client you cannot do anything. Operating concern, it is from the CO side. It is a non-mandatory one, but if you are using COPA then you need to have it. Controlling area, it is a must. Whether you like or you don't, you have to create it in the CO side. Then you have company code. This is from the FI side. You will have to create it whether you like or you don't, doesn't matter. Company is not given in this slide. Ideally should have been given, that as well would have been better. Then you also have plant, sales org and purchase org. Plant comes in your SD and MM both. Your sales org comes from your SD side. Your purchase org comes from the MM side. And this is how in general your org structure will actually look like. Please keep this image also in your mind, and always you should have clear about the relationship between these items. This is very important. Let's move further. Now, my understanding based on my experience so far on the org structure is always defined by the way of business reporting requirement. How they want to have the reports, at what all different levels are there at which they want to have reports. They can have legal requirement, they can have accounting principle requirement, they can have international reporting requirement. It can have different kind of reporting requirements, and that is why we'll decide what kind of org structure you are supposed to have. Then, as I said, legal and compliance reporting requirement also must be keep in mind while deciding about the org structure in the SAP system. Remember one more thing is, when you are defining and deciding about the org structure, do not consider just your current requirement or the current running requirement. You also need to look out for your future expenses, future plans, future requirements which might come up, maybe not immediately 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line. You have to keep the scope open for those expenses and your future plans as well as part of your org structure. It should not be the case when you are creating it org structure, or you are expanding your org structure at a later date, and it becomes the hindrance to expand just because of the poor designing you have done at the org structure level in the SAP system, and it can prove literally very costly. So that is why future of the business must be kept in mind, and while deciding this, kindly take inputs from all possible stakeholders in that particular project. From the business side also, from the leadership side also, from the all other complexity point of view also, from the reporting side also. So basically this is a multi-facet component. It is not a single facet component. You have to take inputs from all possible angles, and then you need to decide all these things accordingly as well. Moving to the next. To conclude, I have already given enough of examples, so I hope you understand why it is a critical decision in the SAP project, particularly for the implementation. Then all current and future factors must be considered. Remember, nobody runs a business for a shorter period. People usually create business or set up a company for a very long period. So long-term focus and long-term requirements of the company also must be kept in mind while designing and defining about the org structure of the company. And if you do any kind of mistake or if you miss out on something, then to correct that and to fix that issue, can prove literally sometimes very costly. This would be one of the most costliest mistakes you can ever do in the system if you go wrong at the time of defining the right org structure for the company itself. It will prove you really very costly, because changes in the org structure once the data are posted in the system becomes really very difficult. So that is why all the due precaution must be taken into consideration while defining and deciding about this particular org structure or the enterprise structure in the SAP system. Moving to the next. So that's it from my side in this video. Please share your thoughts by way of putting comments in this video. If you have a specific query, you can put it in the comment section, or you can even send me an email on the email ID given below. I will definitely respond you back if you have any specific question with regard to the org structure part. Next, thank you so much for watching this video. Kindly like and subscribe this YouTube channel. Like this video, put up your comments, and thank you so much for watching all the way till here. Wish you all a great day ahead. Thank you. Bye bye.